We're warm.
Cold.
She's kind of friendly and we're warm.
Yep. Yeah, we share this building with the archaeology department, so it's kept climate controlled.
Nice.
So this is the fur store. This is where the furs were brought in from several outposts spread throughout the Pacific Northwest, as well as Canada, and prepped for shipment out to Europe. So this is basically the fort's bank vault.
So what'd you bring us?
I bring you fame and fortune. You are going to be on YouTube.
Ooh!
That's good. I mean, yeah,
all of
we do living history, so we're
6
used to being
subscribers.
on. Yep. Yeah, we're used to being on YouTube.
Oh yeah. So don't get too excited, but yeah.
Well, I expect the endorsement money to come pretty soon.
Alrighty then, I'll let them know.
Oh, I forgot that
So-
word.
There are people who make their living on YouTube.
I know,
so
it ain't gonna be me because I'm not going to be censored anything. I'm not gonna censor
so
anything.
might as well give you a tour around the place. So,
You bet.
like I said, this is the fur store. So when they brought in their furs, the furs would be brought in these bales here. Each of these bales contain about 90 pounds worth of fur. And once the bales get here from the different outposts, the stitching will be cut. The furs will be inventoried and laid out to dry according to species. And if you want to come this way, I'll show you the next few steps of the process.
Okay.
So after a few days of drying out, they'll start to take several furs onto the scale, similar to the one that you see here. And you notice there are several different furs. They never made bales out of just one type of fur, and that was to keep them all equal in value. I mean, because if you put your most expensive hides into one bale and it got lost, damaged, stolen, etc., it's like ripping up $100 bills. So
Right.
they mix the furs up, and they would usually start with a beaver. Then they'll put another animal hide on top, and then alternate between beaver, animal hide until they get to 270 pounds. Once they get to that weight, the furs will be taken to a press similar to the one that you see over here, and they will be pressed down into one of these massive 270-pound bales, and that is what they would ship off to Europe.
So I see that they're wrapped in more skins. Is that the actual furs, or is that something they would just use as wrapping?
They would actually use furs. So the small ones that you saw coming in are deer and black bear hide, and then for the big ones they would use either elk hide, which we have here, or grizzly bear skins.
So would the wrapping then be used or sold as well, or would that be brought back to use
Nope,
as
it would
wrapping?
be sold.
It would be
so,
sold
when it got to its destination.
So it was completely a single unit, and there was
Yes.
no what do I want to say? There was no trash. There was no disposal.
Nope.
It was all used.
Nope, if the hide was in really good condition, it would be sold at auction.
Nice.
And then sometimes if they had to cut it up, the leather would also be put to use as well.
Right.
So
That's great.
if you want to come back to the table, we can actually show you some of the furs that
Okay.
we have here.
As soon as I get to near 5 minutes, I get to start another video
Okay.
because so I'll let you
That's
know when I'm there.
So the first one we have here is the beaver. These guys were the heart and soul of the fur trade. These were the most sought after hide, basically because of the nice hats that were made out of them.
Right.
And in order to have one of these in Europe, you had to be pretty wealthy. So a lot of people, if anyone was wearing these hats, they were of significant wealth. And to tell you how expensive, how rich you would have to be, if you wanted a beaver hat, you would have to spend anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 in today's money for
Wow.
just one of these beaver hats.
That's expensive.
Although, even if you didn't get enough beaver, if you were unlucky, we will take other trapped animals as well. So other furs that they had use for, this is a muskrat, and these guys were generally used as hats and mittens.
Okay.
We have a river otter. Both river and sea otters were used. They were usually used as coats and coat trimming. We have a mink and a pine marten. These guys were usually the trimming of your coat, so around your neck, around your hood, your sleeves, etc. Badgers, these guys were seldom made into clothing. Most of the time, these guys were actually used to make brushes. So paintbrushes, shaving brushes, toothbrushes, etc. would all be made out of badger hair.
But it's so soft.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking.
We have red fox, and the red fox is one of several species of fox that they trap. They also trap blue fox, gray fox, Arctic fox, shawls, scarves, and hand warmers. Another animal we have, this is a bobcat. Women of the period were very attracted to the spotted coats of the bobcat, so they were often made into women's clothing. We have a coyote. These guys were generally made into coats as well. And then this one here is more of a necessity fur instead of a fashion fur like the ones here are. This is a raccoon, and these guys were generally given to low-income families because raccoons, they didn't cost a lot of money back then. They don't today because they're everywhere. However, people in Europe who did not make a lot of money, for example, immigrants or unskilled workers, might be able to buy some raccoon skins to make a coat or blanket for themselves to keep warm in the wintertime. And then the last two I like to do together, we have a gray wolf and a wolverine. Now, not a lot of these two particular hides made it to Great Britain or other parts of Europe. One reason because they weren't worth a whole lot. You would need 4 of either skin to equal the value of a beaver. But the main reason was trappers preferred to keep them for their own personal use because wolves and wolverines are so adapted to living in cold weather that their fur does not break when it freezes. And no matter how wet or muddy the hide gets, it does not lose its warming capability. So trappers who did their trapping from September to April usually held onto these two skins for use as winter coats.
Because that's when they had the most fur on them.
Exactly. And also, who wants to be standing in the middle of a creek in frigid temperatures to get a beaver?
Not me.
So you're definitely going to want to stay warm.
Yes.
And then the last fur that Thomas has over here, we have some black bears. And you're definitely going to want to feel the difference between the two.
That's
yeah.
a summer bear. This is a winter bear. You're
This
gonna
is-
like the winter bear.
Summer bear, winter bear. Oh, definitely. Much more fur.
Exactly.
Oh wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, I can see why they would want to get them in the winter when they had the most fur.
Exactly.
So playing your video games, laying on your bear skin, you want this one.
Yeah.
Yep, so bears were generally used as blankets, bedding, and for a while back then the British military had them as hats. So the really tall hats were made out of bear skin.
That's a beaver over there then.
Yes, that is another beaver.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, yeah.
I never would have thought about catching them at, certain seasons.
What is this one?
That is also another beaver.
Okay, it's really soft, isn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, the beavers are very soft.
Yep, that's why
I think-
they were very preferred for their hats.
I think they're comparable to the mink, really. Honestly, if you touch the mink and then the beaver, it's very comparable.
Which one was it?
The mink was this little guy right here. And these guys, like I said, were your coat trimming. They were seldom,
Yeah.
if ever, made into coats.
Honestly, I think the beaver is softer.
Yep, and that's because of all the under hair that's underneath it.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
(1843) and 1844. So out here are the different forts and outposts where they got the furs from, and they also kept track of how many furs came from what outpost, as well as the different colors of bears and foxes, as well as the size of the beavers and a few other animals. But back then, you had to keep track of everything because this was your moneymaker. So you get something wrong. If you get the numbers wrong, well, you probably just lost your company a few dozen, maybe even several $100s. So you had to be very precise, very, very clear when you were writing. And this is ink and feather. So you have to be very careful not to splatter the ink over everything. Plus you had to have good handwriting.
Yeah.
It was a
Definitely.
well-paid position too. to
Yep,
do
the
that.
highest paying working job at the fort.
Was
was
the
a
person who
clerk.
kept the records.
Yep, were the clerks.
Nice.
It was very intellectual work.
Yeah.
And there was no iPad application
Yep.
to do it.
And notice everything is in cursive.
Yeah.
You'd be able to read and write cursive as
And
well.
not just cursive, really nice cursive. Almost
Yeah, exactly.
almost close to calligraphy.
Exactly.
Because yeah.
Well, they actually wrote in something. It's called called English Roundhand.
Uh-huh.
Every clerk was required to write the exact same way in the exact same handwriting.
Oh.
And with an attempt that you could look at multiple different pages written by multiple different people and not be able to tell the difference.
Nice. Wow. So it had to be standard across the board.
Exactly.
100%.
Nice.
So we want to make sure your school enforces that this level of standardization before we hire you.
Right.
We don't want this weird writing.
Yeah. Well, that would leave me out. Okay, well, thank you for the information and the
You
tour.
are very welcome. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too. I like these small barrels. If you ever get a chance to go onto YouTube and watch and see how these are made. Coopers. Did I tell you that? I know I told you that. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, they're waterproof, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, they use tar, don't
I think they tar the inside. Yeah, it's the watchtower. You can actually go up and climb up it. I don't know what's over here, but it looks like it's open. Back in the wind. Well, this looks pretty modern to me.
Well, I think this is the archaeological.
I think it is. It's their offices and
they? Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well, that's kind of cool.
Man, to think they had all this stuff
Yep.
in the. Oh. Man, these computers, so ancient.
Yeah. And they found a lot of artifacts here, which I believe are on display. So that's really. They look very similar, don't they? Unless it was.
Well, it says Colgate on it.
Oh, okay. Then that's probably not back then. I'm sure back then they used twigs and chalk or something. I'm pretty sure that's what they did back then. Or didn't at all. You know, and then they would have to go see the dentist who had worse tools than that. Right?
And
Teeth pullers.